suicide bombers assessed to have been ISIS fighters detonated in the vicinity of the Abbey Gate at Hamad Karzai International Airport and in the vicinity of the Baron Hotel, which is immediately adjacent. The attack on the Abbey Gate was followed by a number of ISIS gunmen who opened fire on civilians and military forces. At this time, we know that 12 U.S. service members have been killed in the attack, and 15 more service members have been injured. A number of Afghan civilians were also killed and injured in the attack. We are treating some of them aboard H-Kaya. Many other Afghan civilians have been taken out to hospitals in town. We're still working to calculate the total losses. We just don't know what that is right now.
That was Major General Hank Taylor, Deputy Director of the Joint Staff for Regional Operations, reporting at the Pentagon press briefing just 2 hours ago on the events that unfolded outside the Kabul airport earlier today. And prior to that, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy issued a statement calling on President Biden to take decisive action to protect our troops, our citizens, and our allies without regard for an arbitrary deadline. He also urged House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to act quickly to brief Congress on the attacks outside the Kabul airport. And that really is the question I think a lot of Americans are asking right now. What are we going to do about it? And this is it's an ironic, it's frankly a tragic situation that we find ourselves in, where the organization that the United States has had under their thumb for the last 20 years, due in large part to the fact that we are a much stronger military force, and we should be able to put the Taliban under our thumb anytime we want to. But at this point, it appears that the tail is wagging the dog because the dog wants to be wagged by the tail. To give you some other examples of this, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the program, we're hoping to be joined shortly by Congressman Perry, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. But I want to talk to him about a couple things that happened in the statement by John Kelly. And it looks like we do have him now. Joining me to talk with me is about what's going on in Afghanistan is U.S. Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, who's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and served as Assistant Division Commander of the 28th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army. Congressman Perry, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here. It's a tough day for all American citizens, and a really tough day for people that have worn the uniform, especially for those who have served and sacrificed overseas. And of course, all of us have seen our friends, not come home the way they left. And this is so unbelievable. It's almost indescribably horrific. Not only the obvious humiliation, but of course now we have the worst attack in 10 years, literally August of 2011, when President Obama was president of the United States. This is the absolute worst attack since then. And I guess the worst part about this is that none of this has to be this way, and every single person that's worn the uniform knows that. And so it just makes it doubly difficult, because not only the sacrifices that have been made by individuals that have served there, and of course their families have sacrificed, but we have casualties today, and as we're trying to leave, and if this were handled differently, those people would be coming home safe and sound. I'm absolutely positive of it, and it's so difficult to reconcile. President Biden, for his entire career, has been on the wrong side of every major foreign policy decision, of every single national security decision. And unfortunately, well, in the past, as United States Senator or even as Vice President, it really didn't impact lives that much. But now it's going to impact thousands of lives, if not more. And when we hear about the United States credibility, especially regarding NATO, and you juxtapose that with President Trump, and people said he jeopardized our credibility in the United States. Whatever President Trump did in demanding that NATO partners pay their reasonable and agreed to share, it pales in comparison to what's happening now. There's not a NATO partner that we have right now that can trust the United States of America, all thanks to one person, the commander-in-chief, inept, incompetent, he failed to listen, failed to learn, and has failed to lead. That's Joe Biden.
Well, we're talking to Congressman Scott Perry from Pennsylvania. And Congressman, to your point, there have been a number of leadership decisions that are not going well with the public. His approval ratings are dropping dramatically. We have not seen anyone resign or be fired yet by President Biden. Do you have any sense of what's going on in the White House? Why we haven't seen anyone be held accountable, take responsibility? And in large part, the White House is saying much of this was inevitable.
Yeah, that's a lie. No one should believe that. It was not inevitable. Yes, most Americans, and rightly so, thought that we had done enough in Afghanistan and we needed to get out. But there's a way of doing things that's responsible, that's appropriate. This is not it. So that's number one. Number two, we shouldn't be surprised that there's been no accountability at the White House or at this administration. Of course, as you know, we have a two-tiered system of justice in the United States, unfortunately now. We've seen that play out. But really, the people that are making the decisions on this, that have been making the decisions, unfortunately, I must say this as a person who was proud to wear the uniform for over 30 years. So this includes the military. The people that are making the decisions don't have the same viewpoint of the United States that most citizens do. They don't represent the same point of view where the United States is a shining city on the hill that has a moral standard that must be maintained. That is a superpower in the world that has to rise above certain things and has a different obligation than other nations. These people have never felt that, and it is hard for us as you know, certainly as conservatives, as Republicans, as people, to reconcile that, to kind of acknowledge that. But unfortunately, it is the truth, and you're seeing it, the manifestation of that truth play out right before you.
Congressman, we have painted ourselves into a strange corner. And today, John Kelly, who's the Pentagon spokesman, of course, he made some statements, and he had this to say about the security situation for American troops around the airport. I want to play this clip for you and then give you a chance to respond.
Continue those attacks, and we expect those attacks to continue. And we're doing everything we can to be prepared for those attacks. That includes reaching out to the Taliban, who are actually providing the outer security cordon around the airfield, to make sure they know what we expect them to do to protect us.
Is that as alarming as it sounds to me as a civilian never served, the idea that we are depending on the Taliban to provide a security perimeter around the airport?
It just goes to exactly my statement right before this, sir. The fact that the U.S. military is saying outwardly, publicly, that we're counting on the Taliban to provide security. It's breathtaking how far we have fallen. Unfortunately, some poor rube like me on the radio needs to remind the Department of Defense that the Taliban is a terrorist organization who just let out ISIS, who just let out Al Qaeda and all manner of terrorist fighters out of the prisons in Afghanistan. It is astounding to me. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be thankful and surprised if any Americans make it out alive.
Congressman, I got another example of this. Actually, I just came across this in the last few minutes. Laura Seligman, who covers the Pentagon for Politico, she's reporting that the U.S. government has given the Taliban a list of names of U.S. citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies that are supposed to allow them to grant entry into the outer perimeter of the city's airport. Now, it isn't hard to see how that list, who gets into the wrong hands, and a week ago, the Taliban was the wrong hands. Now we're depending on them to do our security work for us when we've spent the last 20 years at war with them. It's not hard to imagine that they could turn this list into a kill list. Is this just another example of we just lost control?
I say again, this is we have not had control since the Biden administration walked into the White House in January. We have not had control since that time. The Taliban knew it. Our other adversaries knew it. And Like I said before, again, this just goes back to the fact that we believe as Americans that the person at the White House has the best interest of United States citizens and America itself in mind. Unfortunately, this is a new paradigm. I just hate to say it this way, but people that look at the United States as just another cog in the global coalition don't see us as anything special, don't see American citizenship as anything special, and don't see what's happening right now to American citizens as anything that should be alarming or should be anything of concern, because it happens to other people all around the world on a daily basis. Unfortunately, that's who we have in the White House, and if it takes this for more of America to acknowledge and understand that, I guess that's where we are, because this is what we're seeing right now, and this is why it's so appalling to us, because it is so aberrant to us.
That is exactly the word. I mean, we do lose the right words to describe this. Congressman Scott Perry, thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. God bless you.